Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Yoga for Skaters YouTube channel. My name is Ace, your friend in yoga and off skates training, and this month we're focusing on back health. So for our class today, we are going to be doing a posture focus practice, and the posture we'll be focusing on is a restorative variation of bridge pose. So this particular practice is going to ask us to find some length and engagement through the quads and the hip flexors. We're also going to be exploring how we can use the engagement of the glutes to encourage posterior pelvic tilt and find a little more space at the low back. When I first started practicing back bends, I had a very limber spine, and I did a lot of back bending at my low back. Over time, that led to compression issues, which led to low back pain. And as I developed my yoga practice, I discovered and learned from physical therapists and my wonderful yoga teacher that we can build strength in the glutes, we can build eccentric strength in the hip flexors and the quadriceps to be able to lighten that load on the low back and reduce compression of the lumbar spine. So I'm going to show you some of this throughout this month, and I really look forward to seeing if this supports your back bending practice or even just your general low back pain. All right, thank you so much. I will meet you on the mat with one block. All right, my friends, let's go ahead and get started. So make sure you've got your block as we begin our restorative bridge posture focus practice. We are going to find our way into child's pose. So find a child's pose that feels good for you. You've got options, whether that is bringing the big toes together and keeping the knees wide or keeping the knees together. Choose whichever variation, maybe something in the middle, that feels good for you in your body here today. And then go ahead and just let the forehead rest on the mat. We'll take a deep inhale, feeling that breath going down the length of the spine all the way to the tailbone. And then as you exhale, you can release that breath out through the mouth and releasing the entire length of the spine just the way you did with the inhale. Let's take 2 more breaths just like that. Inhale. And exhale. Go ahead and inhale one more time here. And as you exhale, just let go any tension, any thoughts or distractions as you can. Let them go. Bring that attention to your breath. On your next inhale, we'll shift forward to tabletop position. So we're going to start this practice here today with some spinal articulations. We're going to methodically arch and round the spine, starting at the low back, going through the mid back, the upper back, and then the neck. So to get us started, go ahead and tilt the pelvis forward. So that's our anterior pelvic tilt. Feeling the arch in the low back, get a little deeper. And then start to bring that arch up the mid back. Squeeze the shoulders down and back to feel the upper back. And then take a look up to get the neck in on this one. And then as you exhale, reverse it. So bringing the chin towards the chest. Push through the hands, round the upper back, the mid back. And then start to tuck the pelvis. So the hip points coming towards the ribs, rounding your way up. Nice. 2 more times just like that. So we'll start at the low back, tipping the pelvis forward and down. Mid back arches, upper back arches as the shoulders come back. And then the head looks up. Nice. And then we can start to pair this with the breath as you tuck the chin, round the spine. You can find that good exhale. And then one more time, inhaling to begin, starting at the low back, mid back, upper back, and then the neck as you look up. Beautiful. Go ahead and one more time, find that rounding, tucking the chin, the shoulders round, the ribs draw in, and the pelvis tilts. Good. And then come into a neutral spine right from here. Beautiful. So as you're ready, go ahead and step those hands forward, tuck your toes, and lift the hips up and back. Let's find our first downward facing dog for this practice. And take your time. You can pedal out the feet, maybe shift the hips from side to side. And so in these posture focused practices, they're short and sweet, but we're really going to focus on a concept or two to support our specific pose. Today, we're focusing on that restorative bridge pose. And so we're going to find our way into our first low lunge to discuss a posterior pelvic tilt to help release pressure on the low back. So as you're ready, go ahead and step the right foot in between the hands, bend the left knee, and just find your way up to a low lunge. Beautiful. And in this low lunge, which my teacher refers to as a reformed low lunge, we're going to think about keeping that right knee on top of the left heel and the left knee right below the left hip. And then from here, go ahead and bring the hands to your hip points. And we're just going to move through a pelvic tilt down and a pelvic tilt up. So with the fingertips, go ahead and just guide those hip points down towards that right thigh, and you feel the low back arch a little bit more. If that feels uncomfortable, that's totally understandable. This is a pretty tight position to be in with that front knee and those hips tilted forward. Now what I want you to do is start to tilt those hips forward and up towards the rib cage. As you do that, maybe you start to feel a little more length through the front of the left thigh and hip flexor. And then what we can also imagine, since we're not back there, is that tailbone can find a little more length as we tilt the pelvis up. So this is our reformed low lunge. We can add a little more effort and engagement, some isometric here to start to build this pose by thinking of driving the front foot down and driving the back shin into the floor and then squeezing that left glute. If you squeeze that left glute and feel even more opening on the front of that left hip, then your body's working in a very healthy way. Beautiful. If you don't feel it now, maybe you already have open hip flexors, open quads. But just knowing this concept, hip points tilting up, glute engaged, and then driving our contact points into the mat makes this a little more isometric, a little more engaged. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, go ahead and bring the hands down. And let's step right back to downward facing dog. Perfect. So we'll take a breather here, inhaling through the nose, sending that breath along the length of the spine all the way through to the tailbone. And as you exhale, releasing that breath out the length of the spine, head and neck relax. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and find this on the second side. So left foot's going to step in between the hands. Go ahead and bend that right knee, and we'll come on up. And we'll move through just the same action of the pelvis to feel this from side to side. So hands at the hip points. We'll find the uncomfortable version here where we tilt the hip points forward and down and start to increase that low back arch. So again, if this feels uncomfortable, that's understandable. If this doesn't feel uncomfortable in your body, that's okay too. But what we're going to do for our purposes of building out a restorative bridge pose, we're going to take those fingertips and just tilt the hip points forward and up towards the ribs so that we start to feel that opening along the front of the right thigh and hip flexor. And then that lengthening of the tailbone. Good. We can start to find some stability Again, some engagement here by pressing through the front foot, driving the back shin down, and then engaging that right glute. Perfect. We'll take another 2 rounds of breath here. Inhale. And exhale. Beautiful. One more inhale here. Nice. And as you exhale, releasing the glute. Good. Bring those hands down. And then go ahead and step up and back to that downwards facing dog once again. Perfect. We'll take an inhale here. Exhale. Can you feel a little more length along the spine? Maybe a little more engagement, drawing those ribs together. Yeah. And so from here, we're going to keep working that front of hip opening. Starting with the inhale, go ahead and reach the right leg up and back. And keeping it passive, just stack the hips, bend the right knee, and find your way into this 3-legged dog with a little twist variation. Nice. We'll take 2 more breaths here. Inhale. Exhale, press through the fingertips, lengthening through the left hip point. Good. One more inhale. And exhale, right foot comes down to meet the left. Beautiful. Let's do the same thing on the second side. Inhale the left leg up and back, 3-legged dog. Exhale, stack the hips, bend that left knee. And we'll take about 2 breaths here, or however many breaths feels supportive for you. Good. I like to think of inhaling, pressing through the pads of the fingers, lengthening the arm bones, and exhaling to really soften the hips, the front of the hips, the groin. One more inhale. Exhale, left foot comes down. Good. And so from here, we'll go ahead and step the right foot to the outside of the right hand, bending into that left knee. And we're going to take a variation of lizard with a quad stretch. So as a reminder, please do as much or stop wherever you need to as you build these poses. You can always come back to this video, and I promise if you do, over time, you'll notice some changes. So from this lizard pose, we've got the right toes angled open. We're going to keep the left hand down. And to find this quad stretch, go ahead and inhale the right arm up, bend the left knee, and then our usual way of grabbing the back foot, we keep that thumb up. This time what I'd like you to try is thumb down, grabbing from the inside of the foot, and then starting to bring the chest back towards the front edge of your mat. If you want to block for that left hand, you can always do that. If that helps you find your way into this pose in a way that feels a little better, which for me today, the block really feels nice. So I'm bringing both shoulder heads towards the front edge of the mat. I'm going to lift the heart. Good. And then we'll find some engagement of the quad and the hip flexor in their lengthened position by pressing the foot into the hand and resisting that with the hand. So that right hand is resisting the push of the left foot. Good. Take one more inhale here. You should feel the hamstring, maybe the glute engaged. Yeah. And then gently relaxing that left foot, bringing the right hand back to the inner edge of the right foot. You can step that block to the side, and we'll step right back to downward facing dog. Nice. So lengthening the muscle and engaging the muscle, giving our quads and our hip flexors an opportunity to increase mobility. Good. From here, step that left foot to the outside of the left hand, bend into the right knee, and we're going to set this up, same thing on the second side. So go ahead and bring that block, if you like, under the right hand. Just kind of lift the floor a little bit for you. Left arm reaches up, bend the right knee, and then usually we've got that hand on the outside. Go ahead and try putting the thumb down, bring the hand to the inside of that foot. And then starting to square the shoulders back towards the front edge of your mat. Yeah. And then a little lift of the heart. Good. Go ahead and start to press that right foot into the left hand, resisting with the left hand. So we're finding that length and a little bit of engagement. Good. Can you feel the right hamstring engage? Perfect. And as that foot is pushing into the hand, right, it's activating the front of the thigh as well. Good. One more inhale here. Exhale, go ahead and soften. We'll release this posture setup. Go ahead and set your block to the side. And let's take one more moment here in downward facing dog. Full inhale. And full exhale. Good. One more inhale here. And as you exhale, go ahead and tiptoe your way all the way up to the top of your mat for a nice, easy forward fold. Good. From here, let's find a halfway lift. Straight legs, nice long spine. And exhale, forward fold. Yeah. So from your forward fold, keep those fingertips on the ground. And can you start to sink the hips down and back? So we're setting up chair pose from the bottom up. And just as a little point to note, my feet are hips distance apart. So I'm keeping the hips, knees, and heels in a line. Then from here, can you bring the torso up to find your Utkatasana, find your chair pose. Full inhale here. Full exhale. Perfect. One more inhale here. And as you exhale, you can sink your way all the way down to your seat or bring those hands down and then come all the way down to your seat. All right. So we've warmed the body up. We've got the quads a little open, the hip flexors lengthened. We've got the hamstrings fired up. So what we're going to do as we focus on this restorative bridge is I'm going to have us use the block so that we can notice where we need to engage and notice where that low back gets to find relief as we find engagement, right? So go ahead and find your way all the way down to your back. Perfect. And we're going to start by bringing the toes up. So just the heels pressing on the floor. And we're just going to do this for just a moment just to kind of get those hamstrings engaged. So for a moment, find that strong core engaged, drive the heels down, and see if you can just feel those hamstrings engage. Yeah. Perfect. Holding this engagement. Again, core is strong, back is neutral. And then go ahead and relax. Perfect. And then from here, we'll take the block. Go ahead and bring the block in between the thighs. So you can do it on the narrow setting or the mid setting. But again, let's think about having those hips, knees, and heels all in a line. And then take the arms up overhead. So just like we did in that reformed low lunge, can you start to tilt the hip points up towards the rib cage? And you should feel the low back start to lengthen along your mat. From here, squeeze the block, engage the glutes, drive the feet down, and just start to lift your way up. And take a moment to notice. So glutes are engaged, you're squeezing the block, and the hip points are tilted towards the rib cage. Notice how that feels in the low back. Inhale. And as you exhale, slowly begin to find your way all the way down. Perfect. We're going to do that 2 more times. We'll find our way up there. We'll hold for a breath. So finding those contact points, squeeze the block, drive the feet down, glutes engaged, lift your way up. Yeah. And with those arms overhead, since we're not coming into a full back bend here, you might feel that space between the shoulder blades pressing into the mat. Good. And then just check in with the low back. Are you feeling compression? Are you feeling pressure? Or is it feeling a little more relaxed, a little bit longer? Go ahead and exhale your way all the way down. Nice. Nice. One more time. Squeeze the block, engage the glutes, drive the feet down, tilt the pelvis up, and then rise up. Good. Inhale. Exhale. Slowly begin to find your way down. Very nice. Go ahead and relax the arms. Take that block to the side. And then just take those feet as wide as your mat and let the knees rest in on each other. So this particular posterior pelvic tilt that we've been moving through, right? This is the key to kind of our restorative bridge at this point. So what this is doing again is it is creating some more length in the low back. But the other side of that story is that we're not using that length for more arch, right? So we're not going to get as much arching, back bending range of motion. But what we are going to do is that we're going to start to build those muscles, the glutes, the hamstrings. We'll find release through the quads and the hip flexors to be able to, when we're feeling ready, move into some of these back bends with a strong foundation so that we can avoid any back pain, compression, anything like that. So this is just one way to work your bridge. Good. As you're ready, go ahead and bring those feet right back underneath, or right back in line with the hips. And we're just going to finish off with a really passive hip flexor opening. Go ahead and lift the hips and bring the block underneath the sacrum so you can bring it at the low setting, the mid setting. Nothing too intense here. Go ahead and lengthen the right leg. Hug the left knee to your chest. Perfect. And then we just release. We come back to the breath, inhaling, feeling along the front of the right hip, the right quad. Exhaling to just let that low back area sink into your block. And in this way, we have a more passive situation where we're creating that arch in the low back. More passive, less pressure. Good. Supported is the word I was looking for. Very nice. From here, go ahead and relax the left foot. We'll bring the right foot under the knee, and then same thing, second side. Left leg lengthens, right knee comes towards your chest. And just being mindful here as we're lengthening the leg that is long, we just want to kind of try to keep that leg reaching straight towards the end of the mat. So if you can avoid any external or internal rotation, toes pointing straight ahead or up to the sky, that is in line with what we are focusing on here as we build out this restorative bridge. Good. Take another inhale. And as you exhale, go ahead and relax that right foot. Bring the left foot back. Lift the hips. Beautiful. And then take your time. If you want to hug the knees to your chest and just give that low back a moment to lengthen or round, maybe a little side to side, you can do that. And then rolling over to one side or rocking your way up. we will come to a final seat here. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today as we really broke down the posterior pelvic tilt. We found ways to engage the front of the legs in their lengthened position and engage the back of the legs to help build muscle and support the low back as we start to build out our back bending practice. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions, or I'd love to hear if these variations have been able to relieve some low back pain for you or compression sensations for you. And with that being said, I will see you next time.